can talk to Shani anytime. It doesn't matter day or night, but Shani, giving you light and love. We're coming on without a doubt. There's nothing you can't talk about, Shani. Get ready to start the show. Yo, it's Shawnee, and you know we're gonna talk. Ordinary people and next an ordinary God. Check the reference in Ephesians 5. We walking in the light, and we're living in love. You know with Shawnee, we gon' keep it intact. Cause every Monday got it coming, yeah, we coming right back. So act like you know, we get it on and poppin' at the Shawnee Show. You can talk to Shawnee anytime. It doesn't matter day or night. Shawnee, we're giving you light and love. We're coming on without a doubt. There's nothing you can't talk about with Shani. Welcome to another episode of the Sharing with Shani Show. I am your host, Shani. Our special guest, I'm so excited, is Barbara Clarke Ruiz, former design director for tennis star Venus Williams. Barbara's design career reads like a who's who of international household names that include Nike Europe, Adidas, Feli, New Balance. The list goes on. Also, the creative director for Walmart for 6 active divisions, which grossed close to $750 million in sales per season. And so we're going to just jump right in. Mika Fresh will not be on tonight. And so just keep her in prayer with that. But welcome to the show, Barbara. How are you?
I'm doing great. I love your music.
Oh, thank you. So big ups, props to local producer here in DC, Ben Abs, and his vocalist. His vocalist was named Abel. So my theme song is like 3 years old. My kids keep telling me, it was like, when are you gonna change it? I was like, I didn't know it was like up for it. Right, yes. But so great for you to come on tonight and to talk about this thing that we call entrepreneurship and business. And you have a lot of experience just by reading a portion of your bio and a snippet of that. But tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words.
So I have, I went to Pratt Institute, graduated from Pratt. I was hired right out of college. I was offered a job by Ralph Lauren and Adidas, which I wasn't really interested in working with Adidas, but they paid more money than Ralph. And I was just kind of tired of being a poor student. So I decided to go in the direction of designing activewear. And when I first started with the company, I started to design product that was making a lot of volume. And shortly thereafter, probably about a year and a half into it, they closed down the office and they opened up an international design office in Fontainebleau, France, where I was invited, the only designer that was invited to go to France to represent the US market. And so I just got married, my husband and I went there, and I have my own version of Emily in Paris. It's like Barbara in Paris, except I lived an hour outside of Paris in a town called Fontainebleau. And we lived at the hotel that was just across the street from where Napoleon bought Josephine a wedding gift, which was a castle. And that's what I woke up to every day. So I started out my career working with Adidas and moved to France. And then shortly thereafter, they closed the office and moved to Herzogenaurach, Germany. So I moved to Germany, and my VP said, well, so Barb, what are you going to do? You know, you're going back to the States? I'm like, yeah. Because my husband's a civil engineer, and he's like, I'm ready to go home. You know, he found a job with Euro Disney, but Adidas didn't get him the working papers. They ended up paying him his New York salary because it was their screw up, which is quite generous. And so I decided to stay on for 3 months to finish my collection. And so prior to leaving, my boss said to me, so Barb, what are you going to do when you get back to the US? And I'm like, I'm just going to find another job. And he's like, well, why don't you stay on and work as a consultant? And I'm like, well, what is a consultant? And he said, well, you get to work from your home. And I'm like, for the same money? He was like, yeah. I'm like, then why isn't everybody a consultant? So I ended up consulting with them for 5 years, and my commute to Germany was about once a month. So I had crazy frequent flyer miles, which was great. And
Right.
and as a result of working with a company of that caliber and just, just forging some great friendships and relationships while I was there, those individuals, a lot of individuals didn't move to Germany. They went to work for other companies like Nike and Fila. And so that was, so once they realized that I was consulting, and once I left Adidas, my old project manager called me up and he said, I'm heading up apparel in Biella for Fila, and I want you to be my design director. And I'm like, well, I'm not moving. He's like, you don't have to. And I'm like, okay. And so I ended up consulting with Fila for about 2 years, and then my commute was to Biella, Italy, which was not a bad commute at all.
No.
I really planned it all around my meals and what restaurants that I would go to while I was there. But as a result of working with Fila, then I just started to focus more on the U.S. and then the internet was born. I hate to date myself, but it was born. So I was able to work for Asics and Zogs and New Balance. I was design director, as you mentioned, for 6 activewear divisions at Walmart, which was such an incredible opportunity. And somewhere shortly thereafter, I worked on a short project with Serena Williams, and that was how I was introduced to her sister Venus when she was ready to revamp her collection 11 by Venus. And so Venus and I had the opportunity to work together for, 3 years, 4 years. We worked together for quite some time, which was probably, it was just such an amazing experience for me. And I love it when you meet celebrities and they are exactly the way you'd imagine them to be.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
she is exactly like that. And she's so much fun, and she has such an incredible sense of humor and just a sweet, kind soul. So
Mhm.
that was such an amazing experience for me. And while I was working with her, I decided, I started to bake dog treats for my dog. And I went to her one day and I said, Venus, I'm kind of thinking about starting a dog treat company. And she's like, well, why don't you do that? And I'm like, well, I don't really know anything about dog treats except opening a bag. She was like, well, Barb, educate yourself and surround yourself with smart people like me and launch your brand. And I'm like, okay. And I just did the research, and I launched Liquid Silly, which is right over my shoulder. And this is our 4th year. And our brand is doing really, really well on Amazon. I'm so grateful, especially during COVID. A lot of people got dogs. And
Yes.
and our product really started to take flight just during COVID. And so we're sold on Amazon, and we went from a ranking of 160,000 to like 14,000. So if anyone knows anything about Amazon and being a seller, your ranking is everything, because it shows how quickly your product
It
moves.
moves. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even at 14,000, we move a lot of dog treats, and so I'm excited about it. And people send me love notes all the time about my dog treats, and how it makes their dog so happy, and the things that they'll do for their dog treats. It's just the sweetest thing, and I love it. So yeah, so I work on my dog treat brand, and currently I'm consulting with Kohl's, which this is such a great company, and I'm designing a collection for them, but I can't really talk about it. I'm just waiting for them to give me the green light where I can speak more in detail about what I'm doing for them. But it's really great. Some of my best work is really great.
So excited. One of the things that I love about this show, and we've been doing it now since 2016, is when I meet people. And so I want to go back a little bit to the beginning of your story, where you talked about designing activewear for Walmart. And I'm thinking, did I wear some of her clothes when I was going to the gym like 10 years ago? I possibly could have been, right? Like, and to put it into perspective in a personal touch, I'm like, and now I'm talking to the person that possibly designed that.
But I want to talk about like what made you, so being a dog lover, what made you want to, and I love the brand name, Lick You Silly. That is so awesome and creative. But what made you want to start that?
I just love dogs. I mean, I love all animals, but I just love dogs. And I have a dog now I have a Yorkie. He is 18 years old and he's only 3 pounds. And when he was younger, he thought he was as big as a Great Dane. And he wanted to eat a lot of the same treats that are in the store. And I kind of thought he could, but every time I gave him a treat, he would throw it up. And I'm like, nobody wants to clean up, throw up. Nobody.
Right.
And if it wasn't coming out of one end, it was coming out of the other end. And I'm like, yeah, not doing this. So I started to bake the treats for him. And I realized that he was doing a lot better. I'm like, yeah, this product, it just needs to be natural. It needs to be human grade. And so when I kind of had that premonition in my mind that I wanted to create a dog treat brand, I just kind of put it there. I said, I'm going to create a dog treat brand. You know, you just kind of put like a sticky note. It just, you'll come back to it. And so I didn't have the time to bake treats. And then I ended up getting another Yorkie and she couldn't eat the food that was on the treats are on the shelf. So I decided to kind of dive in and do some research and just look for just some US made products with very simple ingredients, see if I could find a great partner who would make the products for me, and ended up finding an incredible partner. And we sell primarily freeze-dried beef liver and chicken liver, and it's one ingredient, and the product is made here in the US. And the beef liver and the chicken liver, it comes from the animal that is sold to like Wegmans and Whole Foods, like really better stores. So people see those all the time and they're like, what is it, this dog crap?
Right. Offline, we were telling you about the eye crack that I got for Christmas.
I know. And, so my business has really grown from like word of mouth. And, I'm starting out a new campaign where I want to work with micro influencers. And, I have a TikTok coach that I'm actually going to be starting to work with this week. Because I want to be on TikTok, but I'm like, I'm creative. I'm very creative. But when it comes to figuring out content and, understanding how to edit, I love TikToks that tell a great 30-second story.
Yes.
Yes. Love that. So I just want to be able to be a better storyteller. And I come from the school of, if you don't know how to do it, you don't necessarily have to figure out all the pieces because there's someone out there who's already figured it out.
Yes.
And there's always someone, that you can either hire or is willing to help you. And I found a incredible guy on Clubhouse. And, I interviewed numerous people and landed on him. And I'm so excited to be working with him. And my daughter and I both are going to be working with him because she has her own company as well.
Oh, that is awesome. I definitely resonate so much with you in terms of, if you don't know how to do it, find somebody that knows how and glean from them, or, either hire them, barter from them, whatever it is that you can do. And I also love the fact that, a lot of times things that we never thought would manifest into something like a big company was birthed out of a need.
Absolutely. Well, that's how most companies start. Like people, that's what allows the founder to understand that there is it will serve a purpose. Like what need can you fulfill? And chances are, the need that now there's a lot of all natural product on the market. I think I was at the early cusp of that. And now it's like people only want all natural products for their dogs.
Yes.
People always want to know, hey, where does your products come from? And what's in it? Because I also have a peanut butter treat. And I'm like, it's all made here in the US. And my peanut butter treats smell like Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
So
you gotta be careful because I went into Target it was a while ago, but I know it was probably during pandemic, but they had a whole refrigerator section for their pet food. And I was like, and it was packaged like it was real ground beef. I was just like, you know, people definitely care about their animals. I think this is just so fascinating. What would be one piece of advice for someone that is, you know, coming out of school and just trying to get into their specific industry? You mentioned earlier about, you know, just being, you know, working with that company gave you the you met a lot of people and you did a lot of networking. And so what would be your number one takeaway for like for those introverts that don't like networking?
Well, believe it or not, I'm kind of an introvert myself.
Okay.
I mean, I would say, I believe that the way, even, okay, so let me just preface it by saying that building relationships throughout the course of your career is going to make it so much easier when you're looking for new opportunities. And so I would say there is always a way to network, right? There's always a way to meet new people. And I love the Clubhouse platform because everyone there is open to meeting new people and hearing about your experiences and wanting to help and contribute in some type of way. So I really like that club. I like the Clubhouse platform, and or, you know, because you're behind a phone, right? They see your face, but you know, it's not like you have to be face to face, you know, when you're talking to someone, and that sort of creates some anxiety. I mean, there are challenges with meeting people and even going to networking events now, obviously because of the pandemic. And I think that's a great way. And I also think that, you know, utilizing LinkedIn and just connecting with people who are in your industry that you might, you know, want to call on them, or, you know, or you can align somehow with them later down the road. Just connect with them and just send them a really nice little message saying why you'd like to connect with them. Because I think 9 chances out of 10, you know, they will accept, you know, your connection, and then you're free to communicate with them. Like, I've just connected with so many people who are in and out of my industry, or just people of interest that I think, you know, I might, you know, need to call on somewhere in some point in my business. So I just think that, you know, due to the pandemic, everyone struggles with trying to network. So I think that's the one thing for me. It's just meeting
I
people.
also think that for me, it's also just being your authentic self. I think a lot of times we kind of try to either, I don't know, like in some cases we want to dumb ourselves down, or we don't want to show our true authentic self in a lot of spaces. So we overthink things, right? We go into a space where I'm like, oh, I can't be around this group of people because for whatever reason, whatever our insecurities are.
That's confidence. Yeah. I mean, you know, I mean, confidence is a tough one because, you know, even doing what I do, and even, you know, starting my consulting business some 20 years ago, I mean, I have to say, like, when I first started, it was a little tough, you know, going in and really selling myself because, you know, oftentimes companies, they don't even use consultants, right? You know, like a Kohl's, they don't use consultants. But it was, you know, an old colleague that hired me from Walmart that brought me into Kohl's. Again, a relationship, you know, so I think just having the confidence in being your authentic self, because there is value that everyone can bring to the table. And, you know, when you're first starting out, it just takes time to build that. You know, it takes time to really hone your craft and get really good and comfortable at doing that. And it's, you know, you just every day, I always say every day, move the needle towards whatever your goal is. Like, decide what some of those, like, what are your 3 top goals, you know, for the first quarter, and every day really move the needle, do something that is going to allow you to move closer to that every single day.
That's awesome. How does one stay in business for 20 years? What is the secret of that success?
Well, I'm a grinder. I'm a grinder. I am very driven. Some can call me a workaholic. I enjoyed I enjoy being stuck inside when we couldn't socialize, because that just gave me a reason to be a workaholic, and I didn't have to explain to my girlfriends like why I don't want to go out,
Right.
have drinks. So yeah, I just love what I do. I'm so grateful to be able to wake up every day and genuinely love what I do, and being able to take a blank piece of paper and create something and see that come to life, and to have a large corporation find value in that enough to want to put money behind it and push it out there to their customers. Like, that's just so incredibly rewarding to me. And I'm driven by that. And again, I've been in business for 25 years because I just keep turning over every stone. I just, if at one point I had my own, dress collection and jewelry collection called Odessa Josie, and I had a business partner who had to go and get a full-time position. And I had my dog treat brand at the same time. And I decided to fold Odessa Josie and really focus on my dog treat brand, just because it was just easier. And I loved it. I'm actually wearing a bracelet.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you. So this is residuals from our collection. But I also had another startup that we've been sort of growing this thing for like the last 14 years. So I just always, keep creating. And now I'm actually working with a group of women where we have a television project that we're working on. And I can't really talk about that, but, we have investors, at the table that are very interested in this project, and it's incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
And there's actually a television component that I'm going to start working on, even with my dog treat brand, creating animated shorts.
Oh,
So
nice.
I just like to, the one thing I really love about being a consultant is that I get to go on to work on new projects. And sometimes when you're with a company for a long time, you just kind of do the same thing. And, being a consultant, I get to go and work with other brands and kind of turn over, new talents or new opportunities that I wouldn't have, been able to bring to fruition had it not been for that particular company that wants to hire me. But, every time I work for a brand, it's growth for me. I learned something new about a company. I learned something new about myself. And, I just try to always bring value to the table.
And it feels like, and what I'm hearing is that you also are able to take that knowledge of working with the other brands into your own brand, and kind of you're like mixing it up, and if you will, and you've been able, the longevity comes from being able to pivot, right? And coming up with new ideas, right? And okay, so we had to let go of jewelry, but now we're on to something else. In about 3 years, 18 months, we're going to be starting something else. It's like this evolution of not being afraid to change and grow instead of being.
You're right. The pivot is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you hit that one on the head. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not afraid of change, and I'm not afraid to start new.
Right. My second book is called "It's Time to Make a Change," because, and I started writing that book because everybody around me was just afraid to try something new. Like, I had just left a job that went bankrupt. It had folded. I was with them for like 13 years, and people were just stuck. And when you're in a job for 13 years and you're not looking for another job, and then you have to start all over with, how do I went from a job where you had a paper resume, right? And you had a face-to-face interview. And when I left that job, everything was on Skype. No one even talks about Skype now, right? And it was like crazy. Like, all my first interviews after that job was on Skype. And I was just like, you know what? People need to understand that change is inevitable. Like, it's just like the seasons,
Yeah.
right? I'm here in the DMV, and a month ago it was 72 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday was 22. So
Yeah.
like, everything changes just like the weather. And I think we have to be, if COVID has not taught us anything, it should have taught us that we have to be able to pivot.
That's right. And
Right.
be nimble. And I said, if you didn't have a grind in you during COVID, your grind just does not exist, because that was the perfect opportunity. You can network online. You didn't have to go anywhere. You just had
Nowhere.
to get from the wait stop.
Right.
and,
Yes.
and talk to people and push and just create. Like, my daughter created her brand during COVID, and it's just so many people who use it as an opportunity to do something that they've always wanted to do. Like, I spoke to a woman yesterday that I had met on Clubhouse, and she literally moved out of her house. She put everything in storage. She rented it out, and now she travels all around the world in Airbnbs. And she writes blogs, and she consults, and and it's all done via Zoom, and she couldn't be happier. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty incredible.
Right. I mean, I became an entrepreneur, first out of necessity, but then really I get the opportunity to decide what I want to do every single day. Right. And that is a freedom that I like. And it's so funny because everything is picking up. So as an executive coach and working with DEI groups, and just talking about how we can have equity and dismantling systems, and and racial disparities, I find myself being busier, and especially with a new book coming out. And so today I opened up I told my intern, I was like, okay, you can open up my calendar on Tuesdays and Thursdays. To my earliest call will be 9 a.m. And then I had to sit with that, right? And I was like, okay, Shani, put your big girl panties on, because if people need to talk to you, right, you can't say, all right, like, I heard Warren Buffett does everything before 9. So who am I? Like, right. But the funny thing was, but I got to decide that I can open my calendar. No one had to make me, or no one had to tell me. And so, and that was still the beauty for me, of being my own boss, is that, if I want to open my calendar up that early, I can. If I don't have to, right? It's all, but my success or my failure is all dependent upon me.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly right. I'm trying to think of, like, what is that last part of the Evictus poem?
And the master of my fate and the captain of my soul.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, there are just some days, like when it's cold outside, I'm like, let me just, and I'll keep my laptop on the side of my bed. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to get up at 6, but I'm going to stay right here, and I'm going to sit in bed. And there's just something, I just, I love the freedom of that, and there's just something so powerful, especially if you can figure out how to monetize it.
Yes.
I mean, that's the key. Like, figure out what you love to do and how to monetize it. And there is absolutely a way to do that. And, one of the things that I started working on the latter part of last year, and, I created a website, and I really want to, there's so many people who come to me who say, Barbara, got an idea for a business and I don't know where to start. I want to create a product. Like, people just don't know where to start. And I'm like, wow, I'd love to be able to help people to figure that out, because I've had to, do that with even my dog treats, or, with any business entity, even with Odessa Josie, like, where do you do the manufacturing? And you're going to design product, like, how do you go to get your first prototype? And, that sort of thing. So I've worked out a lot of kinks in my own processes. And So I'm looking forward to, probably in the next 3 to 6 months, really helping people to create their own brands and products and pushing them out there in the market.
Well, I'll be the first one because I have an idea that I'm not going to talk about on this live stream, but I'm definitely going to email you afterwards. Like, who can design this for me? But
Yeah.
I
Fiverr. Do you know about Fiverr? Do you know about Fiverr?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
Yes.
Fiverr. I mean, Fiverr allows me to stay in business and not be broke.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Because monetization is everything. I remember years ago, I think I was probably still either in high school or college, but Magic Johnson was getting a humanitarian award through the FCs, and he had already been retired and had went on to form the AMC, the partnership with AMC theaters, and became the partial owner of the baseball team. And during his acceptance speech of this Lifetime Achievement Award, and it's still, I think it's probably 30 years old, but I still remember it. And he said, do something that you love to do. And when you do something that you love to do, eventually the money will come. Yeah. And I felt your passion and your love as you were talking about your work. And I was like, this is the same feeling that I have when it comes to writing. And I've been writing since I was 11, right? And finally being able to, like, what does that look like as far as, and I've had to write everything under the sun. Like, I remember when I first started my business, I left corporate, the business, that job closed down, and I was just like, I was starting with a severance package and unemployment, and I was taking every writing job under the sun. And to look at that from 8 years ago till now, of where I've been, I'm just like, well, I can only go up. Like, it's only going up, and then just creating this platform for other people. And I always go back to that interview, because for me, it's all about passion and what you love to do, and having that balance, because who wants to work for 45 years and not love what they do? Like, is that really the life that the Creator has given us to do that? Like, I don't see that. That doesn't even make sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense to me too, but I also think there's a lot of people out there who don't know what their passion is, right? I think that's part of the problem. And then, when you see yourself and you go to a university and you study something for 4 years and perhaps get a master's degree, then you feel obliged. And now there's been this financial commitment and this time commitment to whatever that dream was at whatever age you were, because it changes too, right? Yes. So, when you're come out of, high school and you're like, oh, I want to be, this or that. And then 30 years into it, you're like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. But you're too far in. It's almost like you're too far pregnant. And I always say to people, you should always have some kind of a side hustle, just because you just never know where your full-time hustle is going to go. And I think COVID really proved that, because I think a lot of people lost jobs, and they needed to figure out what was going to be their next. Like, I was consulting with a company in the city, and they closed the office, and I was happy that they closed the office, because now I'm like, I get to work on my dog treats full time and not have to commute and do that sort of thing. But there's a lot of people who really haven't had that pause to be able to really understand like what's important to them. And I think that, I remember I saw an article pop up a couple of weeks ago on my phone, that they said people were leaving their 9-to-5 jobs at record speeds. And I think that COVID and what has happened, and people really seeing a new value on life, people are really assessing, what's important to them. Like, what do you want to be doing for the next 30 years? And also, what's a lot of companies allowing employees to work remotely, you know, they're able to move to different cities and be able to, you know, to create the life that they want and not have to worry about going to that new city and finding a new job. You know, so like one of my neighbors, like she and her husband were both in advertising, and both of their companies said they would be working remote from now on, and they sold their house and they moved to Vermont. They bought a farm.
Oh, wow.
With many acres. And so
Yes.
that was something that was really important to them, and they can only do it because they're still making the same amount of money, and now they're working remotely, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So what's next? What's next? I know there's some things in the pipeline that you can't talk about, but where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh gosh, that's such a loaded question. Just because you know, I always leave things open, and I let God in the universe guide me.
Yeah.
And where I'd like to be in 5 years is, you know, personally, you know, I'd love to, you know, finally buy that second home that I've been dreaming about for a really long time. And, you know, and with regards to my dog treat brand, I'd love to get it to a point that, you know, I can get an acquisition on the brand. And, you know, prior to that, really just, you know, get my animated shorts on some type of a streaming network, whether it's like Netflix or Amazon or something like that. You know, it's going to be for kids.
Oh, nice.
And with this other television project that I'm working on, I'm super excited about it. You know, I'd love for that to really get to a point where we can even think about, you know, doing some type of acquisition. I think it is going to be a game changer. And you know, and I just want to be comfortable to be able to sit back and just enjoy life, and you know, travel a bit, and you know, and just, you know, get back to some sense of normalcy where you can hang out with your friends and you can travel and you don't have to worry about, you know, wearing a mask. I don't know when that's ever going to happen, but you know, I'm just leaving it really open to the universe.
I love
I
that.
kind of have some idea what I'd like to go, but I'm like, I love when God surprises me.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Barbara.
God surprises are so much better than anything I could have imagined.
Yes, because I was like, whoa, I didn't ask for that. Like, right? Like, okay, thank you. I heard one day, write your plans in pencil and let God be the eraser.
Oh, how about that? I love that.
Yeah. So I'm like, yes, because my plans have nothing on God's plans at all.
Yeah. I always say in my prayers, I'm like, God, dream for me, because your dreams are so much bigger and so much better.
I love that. Yeah.
And he has definitely dreamed for me. I mean, I'm just involved with just some amazing things, and you know, I'm grateful for the career that I had no idea that was ahead of me. Had no idea.
Yeah.
You know, and
I mean, to start your career in Paris, that was just like,
that's so crazy. And the crazy thing,
right.
the crazy thing is that I didn't want to go. And,
right.
you know, and my husband, that, you know, I just got married, we met in college, and he said, we're gonna go, right? You know, offered me a package that I mean, I would have been foolish not to go. It would have been, had I not gone, I would have been kicking myself to this day. So they offered me an incredible package, and it was life changing. I mean, to be able to drive to Paris like every Saturday, and you know, I just remember, you know, specifically like, you know, driving around, you know, the Champs-Élysées, and I'm like, oh, we're in Paris, dude. This is crazy.
Right.
So yeah, such an incredible experience. And I would say if anybody has an opportunity to travel and live abroad, go and do it. Work abroad, go do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna get it wrong, but Ted Lasso fan over here, and one of the characters in one of the episodes said, travel is the second best educator. I'm paraphrasing, but when you come outside of what you, of your of your neighborhood
Yep.
and experience the world, you
Yeah.
see the world differently.
Right. And you know what was really interesting that I found to be interesting is like, you know, in the US, you know, there's emphasis around the color of your skin, right? But when I lived in France, the emphasis was around your nationality. I'm American. And it was never about my color. It was always about, we got the Americans, we got the Germans, we got the French, we got the Swiss. It was never about me being a woman of color. And I had a rainbow tribe of friends, which I still do, but you know, it was truly just so enlightening. And I remember I was at a dinner meeting one night and we were having dinner with, I think the president of National Geographic, and he had just gotten this position, and he said that he sold his house and he packed up his wife and his kids, and they literally went around the world. He said, I want my kids to see the world. And he homeschooled them. But he said, instead of them reading about things in the history book, I want to take them to the places where they could see it. I was like, wow. To be in a position to be able to be blessed by that, right. I mean, how incredible is that?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How can people get in contact with you? So you said that the Lick You Silly brand is on Amazon, but if someone wanted to contact you and say, can you work with me? Or can I work with you? I need to hire you. How would they be able to do that?
I think the best way would be to contact me through my Instagram, Barbara Clarke Ruiz. You know, typically it would be email, but then after we connect on Instagram, I'm happy to share my email address. But, you know, I think that's the best way to connect. And, you know, we can just, you know, start from there. Let's talk about what is it that you're looking to do, and how is it that I can bring value and add value to help you to bring that to fruition.
And for those that are listening or watching the replay, the link for Amazon for the dog treats, because I'm going to go and get some for some dog lovers in my life.
Well, there you can go to my website. There are Amazon shoppers. Yeah, I'm like an Amazonaholic.
Okay.
But we also have a website. It's lickycitypetproducts.com. So
lickycitypetproducts.com.
Okay. Go there and they could purchase and you know, post pictures of your dogs, tag me with the dog treats.
Nice.
Start giving away. I want to start doing like a contest every month where I give away like a bag of dog treats for like the best tag. And, you know, there is an initiative that I started when I first started the brand. It was called Lick Silly with Kindness. And basically it was like sort of like when you get, you know, like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you know, you got like that, you know, that special piece of that gold, you know, card in the candy. Well, you would get a card in your bag of treats. And when you received it, you had to do a random act of kindness and tell us about it on social media. And we would then send your dog a free bag of dog treats.
I love that.
So it's been kind of tough doing that, you know, since the pandemic. But, you know, I'd love to be able to share, you know, I'd love to be able to see what people, you know, post about their dogs and videos and content and things like that, and, you know, and be able to give them like some free dog treats.
Awesome. Awesome. Barbara, it's been amazing talking to you over the past nearly 45 minutes. What would be some words to live by as we close out this show?
Words to live by, I think it would be, life is short. Stop second guessing yourself. Just put it out there in the universe. And once you begin to take that one step, and then that second step, and that third step, the universe is going to show you that path. And it's never easy, but I promise you that as the more you do it, the better you become at it. You will get to where exactly you want to be, but you just got to start. Like most people just don't start. Just start.
Yeah.
And you're not going to know everything. You're not going to know everything. Just
exactly.
like people have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I was not comfortable when I first started my dog treat brand. I'm like, you don't know anything about dogs. You just love them. That's it.
Right.
Well, that's enough, right?
Right.
But I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable until I was able to get to a point where I felt really educated in what it was that I am trying to sell.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we have to be also, we got to let our ego get out the way, because a lot of us, we don't want to start anything till we have all the answers.
That's right. You just start. You're never going to have all the answers.
All the answers. No, you're not.
You're never going to. And even when you think you have the answers, like once you get started, you're like, ooh, that's not how I thought it was going to go.
Right. I tell people all the time, if you saw those graphics that when I first started this show, you'd be like, oh, I'm not going on here.
Well,
we upgrade.
I had a big debacle too when I first started, because my brand was called Yum Yum Puppy, right? And I went and got it all trademarked and everything. I had my bags printed with Yum Yum Puppy, and then I get this letter from the USPTO. They're like, yeah, we can't grant you the trademark because there's a company called Yum 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 and they sell supplements. Well, we used to sell supplements. And so I'm like, are you kidding me? I just figured there is no way that there's going to be another company called Yum Yum Puppy. So when I started to do more research around trademarks, the purpose is that they don't want you to confuse the consumer. So,
right.
So I was distraught and pulled myself together. And I said, all right, I had to come up with another name. And let me tell you, it drove my family crazy. And actually, it's my daughter who designed that little orange dog.
Oh, cute.
And she and her you got to check out her Instagram. It's mata.exe. Her work is amazing. But she did that dog. She went to college in Hong Kong. She went to Savannah School of Art and Design. Nice. And so she's my in-house designer. And but I lost my train of thought. What was I telling you?
Oh, you were saying you started to learn more about trademarks and not
having... Thank you. Yeah, so I started to learn a lot about trademarks, and I drove my family crazy just trying to come up with a name. And I was like, oh God, what am I going to call it? I wanted something that was going to be catchy. And so my Yorkie, she since passed away, she used to lick herself all the time. I'm like, you're going to lick yourself, silly, right? I said that. And so I was laying in bed, I was like, look, you silly. I kept thinking about it, and I just was like, you know what? I'm going to put the flag in the ground. And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be called Lick You Silly. And I trademarked it, and it's been a go ever since. And people say to me, God, I love that name. It's so funny.
It is. I mean, because dogs lick themselves. Silly.
They do. Yeah, even my little dog now, she's like constantly licking herself. I'm like, what in the world?
It's so on brand. Well, I thank you so much for coming on tonight. Much success in your business endeavors. Thank you. Whenever that TV show and whenever that Kohl's deal launches and you need to promote, please come back on and tell us about it.
Oh, I would love to do that. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. The Sharing with Shani Show highlights ordinary people working for an extraordinary God, sharing love, light, and life. We will be back next Monday with our special guest, Cheryl Hurley, and her 5 steps for entrepreneurial success ebook that just launched. Thank you. God bless you, and peace.
Thank you.